You open Instagram for 30 seconds. Just a quick check. Someone from high school is in Bali. Your coworker just got promoted. Your ex looks happy with someone new. And suddenly, without warning, your perfectly fine evening feels inadequate. Your apartment feels smaller. Your life feels like it's happening in slow motion, while everyone else is sprinting towards something better. You weren't anxious 5 minutes ago, but now there's this low-grade panic humming beneath everything. This sense that you're missing out on a life you didn't even know you wanted until you saw someone else living it. Your heart rate picks up. A subtle knot forms in your stomach. Your brain just switched from relaxation to survival mode because it thinks you're being exiled from the tribe. That feeling has a name, and it's not jealousy. It's not insecurity. It's FOMO, fear of missing out. And it's not a personality flaw. It's a hijacking of one of the oldest survival mechanisms in the human brain. If you've ever closed social media feeling worse than when you opened it, if you've ever compared your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel and felt like you're failing at something you can't even name, there's a reason. Social media didn't invent FOMO, it weaponized it. Psychologist Andrew Przybylski at Oxford University was one of the first researchers to study FOMO as a distinct psychological phenomenon. What he found was striking. FOMO isn't driven by what you're doing. It's driven by what you think you're not doing. It's the perception of being excluded from rewarding experiences that others are having. And here's what nobody tells you. That perception doesn't need to be accurate to be devastating. Your brain doesn't care if the photos are staged, the captions are lies, or the smiles are performed. It only cares that someone appears to be winning at life while you're sitting on your couch in sweatpants eating leftovers. And the cruelest part? The people triggering your FOMO are probably experiencing it themselves from someone else's feed. It's not a pyramid. It's a closed loop of manufactured inadequacy. The mechanism is deceptively simple. Social media operates on what researchers call social comparison theory, the idea that humans evaluate their own worth by measuring themselves against others. That instinct is ancient. Evolutionary psychologists believe it kept early humans aware of their status within the group, which directly impacted survival. If you were doing worse than your peers, you needed to adapt, improve, or risk being left behind. That comparative instinct kept people alive. But here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. That survival mechanism evolved in small tribes of maybe 150 people. You knew everyone. You saw their struggles, not just their victories. You understood context. Now, with social media, your brain is trying to run that same comparison algorithm against thousands of people, none of whom you actually know, all of whom are curating their lives to look better than reality. Your nervous system is treating every vacation photo, every career update, every relationship milestone as evidence that you're falling behind. Not because you are, because the system was never designed to process this volume of comparative data. And it's not passive. Social media platforms are engineered to exploit this. The infinite scroll, the notifications, the algorithmic prioritization of content that generates engagement, which almost always means content that triggers emotional reactions. Envy drives clicks. Anxiety drives return visits. FOMO drives compulsive checking. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology found that people who limited their social media use to 30 minutes per day showed significant reductions in loneliness and depression. Not because social media is inherently toxic, because the dose is. But here's what nobody tells you about the deeper layer. FOMO isn't actually about missing out. It's about control, or the lack of it. When you scroll through curated moments of other people's lives, what you're really experiencing is a loss of agency. You're a spectator in your own life, watching everyone else play the game, while you sit in the audience. The feeling isn't, I wish I was there. It's, I should be further along than I am. And that gap between where you are and where you think you should be becomes the source of constant, low-level dread. We scroll not to see what's happening, but to reassure ourselves that we haven't been forgotten. It's an audit of a life we aren't actually living, like a bored accountant checking spreadsheets for a company that doesn't exist. We're trying to control the chaos of existence through a glowing rectangle, conducting inventory on experiences we never had, relationships we never built, versions of ourselves we never became. And the more we audit, the more inadequate the inventory looks. The brain releases dopamine when you open the app, anticipating connection, novelty, reward. But what you encounter instead is comparison, inadequacy, evidence of everything you're not doing. The dopamine drops. The body compensates with cortisol, stress hormone. And within minutes, you've gone from neutral to anxious without consciously understanding why. This is what psychologists call negative social comparison. And it doesn't just make you feel bad in the moment. It trains your brain to see your own life as insufficient. They'll check their phone first thing in the morning, before coffee, before getting out of bed, not because they're looking for something specific, because not checking feels like being disconnected from a reality that's moving without them. They'll refresh the feed, even though they just looked at it 30 seconds ago. Not because new content appeared, because the act of checking provides temporary relief from the anxiety that not checking creates. It's not connection they're seeking anymore. It's the absence of the withdrawal that comes from disconnection. At 25, FOMO feels like urgency, like you're running out of time to catch up to everyone who seems to have it figured out. At 35, it starts to feel like resignation, like maybe some people just get the good life, and you're not one of them. At 45, it transforms into something quieter, but more insidious. The sense that the window has closed, that the opportunities everyone else seized have passed, that you've been living the wrong life while everyone else was living the right one. But here's the part that'll mess with you. The people making you feel like you're missing out. They're exhausted too, performing a life that looks good online, while managing the same doubts, the same inadequacies, the same fear that they're not doing it right. The difference is they've learned to hide it better, to curate harder, to edit faster, and you're comparing your raw, unfiltered reality to their polished, engineered fiction. Not because you're naive, because the brain wasn't built to distinguish between authentic experience and performative display. When both arrive through the same glowing rectangle, they grieve sometimes the version of themselves who didn't need external validation to feel like their life mattered. The version who could sit in a quiet room without reaching for their phone, who could enjoy a meal, a sunset, a moment of peace, without immediately thinking about whether it was worth documenting. That grief is real, and it lives alongside the compulsion, two parts of the same adaptation to a world that turned connection into competition and presence into performance. FOMO isn't a sign that your life isn't good enough. It's a sign that you're trying to live up to a standard that doesn't exist. That was never real. That no one is actually meeting, no matter how convincing their feed looks. The comparison trap isn't about what other people have. It's about what you think you're supposed to have. And that supposed to was designed by an algorithm optimized for engagement, not for your well-being. And somehow, despite all of it, people are starting to recognize the pattern, to see the mechanism for what it is, to understand that the anxiety isn't coming from their life. It's coming from the interface. That realization doesn't fix everything, but it's the beginning of something. The moment you stop taking the feed as evidence of reality and start seeing it as what it actually is, a curated performance designed to keep you scrolling, the spell begins to break. Here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, you are missing out. You are missing out on millions of lives every single day. Billions of experiences happening right now that you'll never have, places you'll never see, people you'll never meet, versions of yourself you'll never become. And that's okay, because a life where you try to be everywhere is a life where you are nowhere. Real agency begins when you choose what to miss out on. When you stop auditing other people's inventories and start building your own. If this video felt like someone finally named the feeling you've been carrying every time you open your phone, subscribe. We don't offer solutions here. We offer the uncomfortable clarity that shows you the system you've been living inside. Leave a comment with the word enough if you're done measuring your life by someone else's fiction. Let's dismantle the patterns that run your life while you're busy calling it connection.